Hello and welcome to this edition of One on One. I'm Paranjoy Guha Thakurta in the studio of Lok Sabha Television here in New Delhi. There's a huge amount of concern the world over whether this country and the rest of the world could continue along the path it has so far, consuming huge amounts of fossil fuels, coal, hydrocarbons, petroleum. How does a country like India and how does the world transit to a path where economic development takes place in a manner that's ecologically sustainable? To discuss this subject, I have with me here in the studio of Lok Sabha Television a person who is eminently qualified to speak on the subject. Let me welcome Prabir Ghosh. Prabir is the president and CEO and ambassador of a non-government organization called Invest. Invest stands for Invest in Energy That's Sustainable through virtual collaborative teams. Prabir is a graduate, he's an alumnus from the Indian Institute of Technology in Kharagpur, worked in Thermax in Pune before moving to the United States of America, where he has spent many years, 2 decades or thereabouts, worked with various organizations and is currently evangelical in his enthusiasm to ensure that the world and India in particular transit towards a sustainable and an ecologically sustainable path. Prabir, how big is this problem?
Thanks, Paranjoy. First of all, thank you for the welcome. I look at it as a problem as well as a solution. I would like to kind of compare it to energy is the lifeblood for any growing economies. When you go to a doctor, you don't treat the effect, which is the climate change. You treat the cause, which is how we use our energy. So in many ways, instead of focusing on the effect, let's focus on the cause, the root cause. And if we start finding ways where we can use energy in a clean and effective manner, we will see that we can actually, India and the world can grow sustainably, and it is going to be a huge benefit to all of us.
You know, probably what people who listen to you might say is that, look, whether it be the United States, whether it be the countries of Western Europe, whether it be Japan or even Russia, China, all these countries grew because fossil-based energy was cheap.
Correct.
It was inexpensive, so this was the best way to grow. Say countries like India and China, if it has to sustain a rate of growth of 9%, 10% per year, then you need cheap energy. And the only cheap energy that's available is from coal and to a lesser extent oil. But surely it can't come from wind energy, it can't come from solar energy, it can't come from various kinds of renewable energy sources because they are far more expensive. This is a view. How correct is this view? How correct is this perception?
If you look at the traditional mindset, you are absolutely right. Historically, the developed countries and to a very large extent China has used fossil fuels, coal, oil and gas to grow substantially. And what we are now finding is that growth cannot be continued because 2 key things are happening. One is the energy security. In simple terms, what that means is our resources are not forever. They are dwindling and they are dwindling very fast.
Once again, Prabir,
Okay.
let me just interrupt you.
Okay.
Is this an alarmist view?
It's all over the map. If I may just show a simple diagram. Yes, the best way I think you can look at and answer the pessimists who think that oil has run out, fossil fuels have run out, and the optimists who think that we still have huge reserves, is if we look at it in a time wrap concept. Okay, so I'm just going to draw just 2 simple diagrams to kind of elaborate that. The first one I'm going to say is, if you look at a time horizon of 4,000 years and say 2,000 years, we are at 2,000 here, and this is 080, and let's say 4,000 years. The fossil fuel use really started in the mid-1800s, and what we saw was a huge increase in fossil fuel. And the question now is, how long can it last? If we look at it in a time wrap, the pessimists think that it will have about 1,000 billion barrels left, and that will last only about 20 years, 30 years. The optimists think that there is enormous amount of reserves of conventional as well as non-conventional oil, and that's about 8,000 billion barrels. What I want to show you is, if you draw this map, the width of this line you see is, if I draw two lines here, that's the difference between the optimist and the pessimist. So what we are talking about really is 20 years or 80 years.
Okay.
So
if you're a pessimist, you're saying we're going to start running out of our oil and our coal 20 years down the line. If you're a optimist, quote unquote, you will say it'll happen
80,
80
100,
years.
120, but very well within, and I'm not talking about peak, I'm talking about the whole energy reserves. So coal, we have got much more in abundance, but it's still, if you look at it in a 4,000-year time horizon, we are talking about 300 years.
Are you somewhere in between? Are you an optimist or you are a pessimist?
The way we look at it, Paranjoy, is mankind have always found a technology solution wherever there's a solution to be found. So I would think that mankind would actually find the solutions.
Okay.
So I'm more leaning towards we will find all there is to find. So that's one part of it. Okay. We have not addressed the climate change part.
No, we'll come to the climate change. The human beings tend to be myopic. We don't think maybe of the lives of our children and their children, of our grandchildren. But many people don't want to pay up front. Do you also find that there is a certain amount of complacency about what you argue, that the world is actually running out of these non-renewable sources of fossil-based energy?
The world has traditionally used fossil-based energy. I think we can learn from that. But what we also feel is, just like I'm optimistic that we will find technologies that will get all the resources for oil and gas and coal, I'm equally optimistic about the technologies for renewables that will bring down their costs very dramatically, just like we have seen in the, say, computer chips. And today, we can buy a computer chip that was first invented for about 1/1,000,000th of that cost in just a 20-year time frame.
So you believe that the wonders of information technology could get replicated as far as the manner in which we are generating energy, consuming energy is concerned?
It's not only could, it's actually happening.
Okay.
A very good example is 10 years ago, cost of solar panels were about roughly $12 to $15 a watt. Today, that number is $3 a watt.
So it's come down by a fourth.
It's come down by a fourth, and the magic number is about $1.50 to $2.
All right. Prabir, I take a break in our program, and I'll get back to you in a short while from now. Stay with us.